For today's double indie game review, we have two kind of puzzle platformers to bounce around to. First, the anti-hero of Vindefiant, and then some physics-related fun with Bionic Bay. In Vindefiant, we play a man who, after spending years working a dead-end job, finds that he gets fired for no reason. And instead of taking things to the unemployment line, he sprouts eldritch tentacles and begins to go on a one-man rampage around the city to get revenge on everyone. With Vindefiant, our kind of main element here is that you're not exactly jumping around. As long as you are close enough to any kind of surface that isn't hazardous, your tentacles will grab and then you'll be able to push and move around using them. You have a dash, which the dash is probably the closest we get to a pseudo jump in this game, as you can use it to push in any direction, and you have kind of like a bonus dash when you're in the air or when you're not attached to any surface. Our platforming here is about maneuvering around the levels, trying to get from point A to point B. You are quite deadly, as you can grab enemies, grab objects, and just fling them around for fun and mayhem. Each level features a variety of hidden paths and bonus things to collect, and the challenge definitely grows in it. Now, the main issue that I have with Vindefiant is that it can be a bit janky in spots, and this has to do with the kind of physics that drives this game. You see, when you move around or when you're just staying idle, your character is going to be pushed and pulled based on what the tentacles are attached to and how far your body is in relation to them. This doesn't sound so bad when you're in very wide open environments or trying to make grand jumps, but there's many sections that require you to carefully maneuver around certain objects, and what can end up happening is that pushing left can mean two very different things based on where the tentacles are attached to, and you do not have any control over how the tentacles will grip or what they'll grip to. So you can have a situation when you'll move to the left and it will just send you far to the left, and then you'll tap again to the left and this time will be far shorter. Not only that, but when you're kind of idle or even just trying to gently move around, your character can take additional movement, again based on the physics of the tentacles, and this can lead you to accidentally bumping into a hazard and restarting an area. Now, the game does feature a lot of checkpoints, and it also means that the levels or the environmental parts where it's like a multi-screen section and there's far fewer checkpoints can be a bit annoying. With the camera itself, I did have an issue sometimes that the screen transition from one to another is very jarring. And this can lead to some trouble if you're in an area where there's a lot of hazards and you move into like a new screen and the jump cut kind of leaves you a little bit disoriented and your character just bumps into a spike, shock, whatever. But this doesn't come up too much. All in all, Vindefiant is a very solid kind of, again, puzzle action platformer, I guess, if we want to define it like that. It is not long by any stretch of the imagination. You should be able to get through this one in probably about maybe like 1.5 to 2 hours, give or take, if you're going for max completion. That will, of course, take longer. And I like this concept. I hope we see it kind of fleshed out, maybe with a sequel or with another form of design. So if you like platforming around as the bad guy or anti-hero guy, then give this one a try. Now, I heard all of you like physics-based platforming, and for our next game with Bionic Bay, you will get that in spades. Here, we are part of a science experiment working on this mysterious egg-like object. When the experiment goes horribly wrong, we are apparently trapped in some other dimension of very different kinds of platforming, and to survive we are going to have to do our best job of jumping, dashing, and more around while quite literally everything is out to get us. Right from the get-go, I absolutely adore the art style of Bionic Bay. There are just some amazing looking backgrounds and details to each one of the dimensions you'll be jumping through. Our gameplay here is going to be kind of, again, like focusing on physics-based platforming. There aren't any like quote-unquote enemies. There are of course going to be automated things doing their thing, but this is not a game about combat. Your main tech is going to be being able to jump as well as dash. When you dash on the ground, your character will do this roll, and you can jump out of the roll to initiate a long jump. You also can wall climb, and the level design here is set up to be very linear in that respect. There are, of course, numerous environmental hazards and sections for you to get through. There are some kind of wiggle rooms for sequence breaking if you are careful and good enough, but this is again going to be about getting through the environment as seamlessly and as cool looking as possible. As the game goes on, you'll be introduced to a few new powers. They're oftentimes tied to being in different dimensions. In one section, your character basically becomes super gravity and falls far faster, gets time stop, and can now punch like a bullet train to almost any object. Checkpointing in this game comes fast and furious, and that is important because you are very fragile here. Any one of the numerous missiles, lasers, or even just the physics of an object that you try to maneuver can end up killing you. With like any kind of like puzzle solving, besides the environmental puzzles of how do I get from point A to point B, you also have the ability for a lot of smaller objects to hit them and then swap places with them, allowing them to be in another section, sometimes float in the air, providing a platform or some kind of shield. And I'm sure there'll be people trying to figure out the best ways to optimize this all throughout. The main thing about Bionic Bay is that despite the beautiful art style and just this kind of mystery, it's very bare bones when it comes to kind of mechanic or progression growth. The different powers you get are not permanent, outside of kind of like your core abilities that you get relatively early on. And it is just very much a case of get into a new level, and it becomes one giant obstacle course and that's it. There's not really a lot of things that shake things up in that respect. And if you're hoping for boss fights or the game to kind of break its own rules, we played this for about, I would say like 2, maybe like 3 hours, and we didn't really get to see like anything like that. By the time you're watching this review, there's a good chance we would finish the game all the way through. But it is just a case of more of the same stuff, which if you enjoy that, you're going to definitely get your money's worth. There's also daily time trial challenges where you can compete with other players to see how quickly you can get through a section. But there are no kind of like off the main path elements in the main game of Bionic Bay. Again, everything is kept very straightforward. Now, if I had any other issues, there were a few sections that it was a little bit difficult to see what was going on. Because of how striking the art style is, there are cases where it's a little bit hard to make out the foreground from the background objects, and you will be making a lot of blind jumps. Again, thankfully, because of how frequent the game checkpoints, nothing is too frustrating in that respect, and you will not be losing tons and tons of progress when you die. So if you are a fan of platforming and looking for a very beautiful and very environmentally obstacle-focused take on it, then you definitely want to give this one a play. And with that, we're done with our double review. Both games were played with press keys provided by their respective publishers. Let me tailor your game for a future stream and showcase. It does not have to involve puzzles, platforming, or physics, or anything else that starts with the letter P. And if you did play these games, let me know what you think about them down below. But with that said, thanks for tuning in, and I will see you all in the next video. Thanks for watching, and a special thank you to our Patreon supporters. If you enjoyed the video, do the YouTubing stuff, be sure to visit our Discord and Patreon, and if you're interested in more of my thoughts on design, check out my game design books.